Welcome to Syndicated Nightmares, where each week we take a deep dive into an episode of Freddy's Nightmares based on the Nightmare on Elm Street film series. Hosts Dave and Michelle are joined by special guest David Anderson, host of Don't Be Afraid of Your Dreams podcast. Today we are covering episode 12, The End of the World, which aired January 14th, 1989, written by James Cape and directed by Jonathan Batole. And I probably messed those names up because I mess them up every week.
That's okay.
David Anderson, is it safe to say that you're not the David Anderson that's married to Heather Langenkamp?
That is safe to say, but that is a startling coincidence, isn't it? Like in an alternate universe meant to be, I guess, but definitely not in this one.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a Freddy fan. Nightmare on Elm Street is, my favorite horror franchise for sure. I think, or I know, the first one I saw in the theater was Dream Warriors, and I never looked back, I guess, because here I am 30 plus years still talking about it. So
is Dream Warriors your favorite?
On the day it could go between Dream Warriors or the original, but I would probably give the edge to the original, I have to say.
Dream Warriors is my favorite.
Awesome. You can't go wrong with that. So.
And you have a podcast, Don't Be Afraid of Your Dreams? I
am. Don't Be Afraid of Your Dreams. Kind of loosely inspired by, I guess Nightmare on Elm Street, but just my love of horror in general. And I kind of use a specific movie or story, let's say, as a window into a larger conversation about maybe an experience I've had or just like a general topic that I want to talk about, and then hopefully kind of tie it all together in a kind of self-improvement framework. So it's an unlikely pairing, I guess, but kind of what I was inspired to do. And I think that's oddly kind of how I process this genre for the most part. So.
Okay. And how often do you update your podcast?
Out of the gate, I was doing pretty well, and I've kind of fallen into a holiday haze, but my intention is to do it to publish at least bi-weekly, let's say. So I'm hoping to get back on that track here shortly.
That's great. Okay. I will give a brief synopsis of the episode, and then we'll go into our thoughts. A woman discovers she can change events that happened to her in her childhood, altering her life. Soon she is discovered by the CIA, and they use her to prevent a nuclear disaster.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, pretty much, because that doesn't happen until till the way in. So, Dave, what did you think of this episode?
I really enjoyed it. I'm in an unintentionally funny kind of way. Like the first half, it's really, it's dealing with family tragedy, but I laughed really hard. I had a great time. What did you think?
I liked the first half of it a lot because I like anything where you can alter your past, any type of, although this wasn't time traveling, it kind of felt like time traveling a bit. So I really liked the first half of it. The second half, I had to force myself to get through it. So, David, how was it for you?
Well, off the bat, I was pleased to see that this was kind of inexplicably a holiday episode that takes place at Christmas for no reason. And it aired in January, I guess, so it wasn't even because it was necessarily airing at Christmas. But anyway. Yeah,
I wrote that down in my notes as well, that it was a Christmas episode airing in the middle of January. So maybe something happened with their original scheduling to where they couldn't get to it for their Christmas episode.
Because Christmas has absolutely nothing to do with the with the plot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed it because it seems to fit well within kind of, let's say, the Nightmare on Elm Street universe, with the idea of intentional dreaming and kind of molding your dreams and then your reality, I guess. So I thought that was interesting, but I guess we're all on board with really enjoying the first half, and then it kind of goes off the rails quickly in the second half. But
I felt like the very opening scene was a combination of Nightmare 2, Nightmare 3, and Nightmare 4 all together, kind of smashed in. With the mom is on the ladder, and that kind of reminded me of Nightmare 2 when Jesse's dad is on the ladder trying to take off the bars from the window. And then Nightmare 4 when Kristen is walking along the sidewalk and she sees the little girl drawing on the sidewalk. And then Nightmare 3 when Kristen is waking up in her bedroom and she goes off to make the house. I just saw I felt like a lot of those elements were in the very first few minutes of this episode.
Yeah, I definitely got the Nightmare 4 vibe of Kristen walking up. I wouldn't have recognized her. I just found this out through IMDb, but the little girl, the little blonde girl, was the same girl who was in Nightmare 3 and 4.
Who did she play?
She was, in 3, she was the girl at the little girl at the very beginning that Patricia Arquette picks up.
Oh, where she says Freddy's home?
Yes. And then that same girl was also in 4, the one drawing in chalk and on the beach.
Oh, I never knew they were the same little girl for 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Kristen Clayton.
Oh, I've watched both of those films thousands of times and never realized they were the same girl.
Would you guys call a little girl that you didn't know little girl? As they do in all of these movies and in this episode. It's always little girl.
Yeah. Don't think I would.
I'm not sure how I would approach a little girl who was just standing there. I'd probably ask where her parents are before anything else.
In this opening sequence, so it starts out with this nightmare sequence where she watches the girl climb into the car and hit the gear shift and back up into the ladder that her mom's on. And it's supposed to be this horrific thing, but the mom plops off the ladder like a sack of potatoes. And I thought the staging was really funny.
I'm not sure if it's the second dream sequence. Oh, yeah, this would be for the second dream sequence when she runs over the girl's legs and then also runs over the mom. And yeah, the whole production of that was probably unintentionally hilarious because it just wasn't executed very well at all.
Yeah, she inexplicably looks like she got nailed by a semi, right? She's almost completely decapitated and covered in blood.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering, the mom falls off the ladder and it's how does she get blood on the front of her when she landed on her back?
Yeah, and she was supposed to have just snapped her neck, right? Or broken her neck.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think your neck bled out like that when it was broken. I've never broken my neck, so I can't say for sure, but I was very alarmed at the mass amount of blood that was coming from her.
This was kind of giving me Omen vibes too, like when Damien, runs his big wheel into Lee Remick when she's up watering the plant or something, and she falls off and she's hanging from the banister. It was kind of staged in a similar way.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that, but yeah, that is pretty similar.
So for this episode, after that whole dream sequence happens, the woman, I don't remember her name in the episode.
The main character? Amy.
Amy wakes up from her nightmare, and that's what gave me the Nightmare 3 vibe from it. And she goes downstairs, and surprisingly enough, in this episode, she has a very caring father, which in previous episodes, it just seems like all of the other parent-child relationships, just they didn't care about one another at all.
He clearly has his own demons that he's dealing with, though. He's, a man after Marge Thompson's own heart with his morning nog. And
right, the first shot of him is him, pouring his liquid breakfast.
Right.
Yeah.
In my notes, I wrote down that he does seem like to be a caring father, but he's still... just his demeanor around her just kind of seems a little bit creepy.
Yeah, so I guess the next thing is that she's hanging out with her friend Jill, who's got they went shopping and Jill's got this sweater dress that she's going to use to attract the boy at the dance.
Oh, it's the night of the big dance.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me started with those legs, apparently. And that's where we find out Amy has some sort of Harry Potter-esque scar that she's disproportionately humiliated by and seems to view as some kind of hideous deformity, I guess.
But she's lived with it for more than half her life, so I feel like she would kind of have gotten over it by now that she has a scar on her forehead. And
she's on the search for the perfect hairstyle, I guess, that will cover it up, and she hasn't landed on it yet. But
mm-hmm. And then she's off to her doctor's office, and her doctor is George Lazenby from the one-time James Bond.
What a get.
Mm-hmm.
So, can I ask you guys, what kind of doctor is Dr. Clark? Do we know?
I feel like he's supposed to be a general practitioner, but yet he kind of takes on the role of psychologist.
Right. He's kind of a catch-all, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she says it's just like a regular checkup, and then she throws the dreams into it. It seems like after they're done with the checkup portion of it.
Yeah, and he was, of course, very insensitive about the dreams that she was having, just kind of casting them off as, oh, it's just because you went through some crap, but get over it. And instead of being like, well, yeah, the dreams are because of what you went through. Maybe you should talk to a professional and get to the root of why this is bothering you.
And he also like talks about how difficult life is in general. Like it's pretty much the least he's as uncomforting as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, you know, life is miserable. There's miserable things. Bad things happen.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you're having nightmares.
That was one of my favorite moments when he was kind of rattling off, you know, how we transition from childhood fears to adult fears. And his examples were money, jobs, responsibility, and the threat of nuclear disaster. I'll just throw that in there.
Yeah. It was the late 80s. So were we in fear of nuclear disaster?
I think we were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm terrible with U.S. history, so I have no idea what we were going through in January of 1989, but apparently a possible nuclear disaster.
And it would be bound to hit in Springwood, Ohio, obviously.
Oh,
like if
yes.
that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we soon learn, because the next scene, she's having the same dream again. And we learn that these dreams are premonitions, but she like wakes up from them. Or
the second dream, she goes back and there's I guess later it's treated as a reveal that she's seeing herself as a kid, but I thought that was pretty, I don't
clear.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't get that until the second dream. I had no idea that was what was going on during the first dream. But yeah, for the second one, I wrote, oh, flashback of what really happened. That's cool. That was my note.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, she has the dream again, and there's two little girls, there's herself and Jill when she's a kid. And then when the dream happens again, Jill falls down and Jill's legs get run over by the car. And then the car continues to hit the mom.
Right.
Yeah, and then this was like one of my favorite scenes when she wakes back up and she calls Jill. And she's like, sorry, we're late for the dance. Bet you can't wait to get on the dance floor. And Jill is now in a wheelchair, and like she's sitting. It's 8 p.m. on a Saturday night, and Jill is at home sitting alone in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And Amy's calling her up saying, well, bet you're excited for the dance. And Jill's like, why are you doing this? Why are you torturing me? Yeah,
that was strangely humorous. And yeah, she's just sitting there on a Saturday night in this dark room, all depressed because she's in a wheelchair from what happened to her 10 or so years ago. And I feel like in real life, she kind of would have accepted what had happened to her and, adjust her life to fit her disability in a sense. And I'm pretty sure people in wheelchairs can still go to a school dance. Like the girl in my high school who was in a wheelchair, she went to all the dances and she was like the life of the party. So I don't know what's going on with you, Jill, but...
Well, Jill has not moved on, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, she will be at her own pace and she'll adjust to her life when she's ready to.
But in the meantime, she's being, psychologically tortured by the person who
who did this to her.
By the person who caused the accident.
It's unclear to me exactly how Amy was responsible, because I feel like that car was rolling out of the driveway at like 0.5 miles per hour. Just get out of the way. You're fine. I think she like...
Was the car like in neutral or anything? Was the key in the ignition? Because maybe cars in the 80s were different, but I don't think you can get a car out of park unless like there's a key in the ignition.
That's a good point. I don't think you could. But yeah, and so she goes to the doctor and tells him that she had the dream again, and now Jill is in a wheelchair when she never was, and the doctor says Jill's always been in a wheelchair. So it's the dreams are affecting reality.
Which that's the part of the episode that I really liked, that she could go to sleep and dream of whatever she wants to happen, and it seems like it would come true.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that too. Again, very Dream Warriors-esque. Like, okay, I'm kind of learning the rules of how this works, and then I'm going to take control. Do we have any idea what the source of her powers is? Because initially I was thinking that it was the scar, and that she'd somehow bumped her head, and for whatever reason, whatever traumatic head injuries she suffered had instilled her with this power to be able to bend reality. But that's not the case, because later she undoes that in the dream, and she's still able to, use that power. So that was a dead end. The only other theory I have is that the doctor says something weird about her parents being like quite the pair in the 60s. So I'm assuming they did like a lot of psychedelic drugs.
I'm sure
Maybe
they
during
did.
during pregnancy, and so she has some weird birth defect that gave her telekinetic and psychic powers of some kind. I don't know.
But I guess you could ask the same thing about like Kristen in Nightmare 3. Like, why does she have the power to pull people into her dreams when nobody else does?
It's okay if you guys make fun of me for this. It's very reminiscent of Twilight, to where each vampire has like their own special power, but it doesn't really tell you why they have that one special power.
Maybe that's just vampire rules, because Interview with the Vampire is kind of like that too. Like, the dark gift is different for everyone, and they all have like slightly different variations on their powers. So who knows?
Yeah, so I guess it's just one of those where you just have to go with it. That there's really no rhyme or reason to it, or if there is, we're never going to know why. We just have to be on board with it.
Mm-hmm.
During the third dream of her watching the two little girls that are actually her younger self and younger Jill, she ends up saving both of them from the rolling car, and the mom never gets hit by the car, so she doesn't fall off the ladder and breaks her neck and dies. So when she wakes up from the dream, her mom is alive, which she's really happy about, but then finds out because her mom is alive, her dad is now dead.
Yeah. I think you skipped a dream, because there's the one, she has one where she rescues the two girls, but not the mom.
Oh, that's right.
And then and then she wakes up and the dad, so Jill's fine now, but the mom is still dead.
Mm-hmm.
And the dad tells her that whole story about how he was about to leave for a business trip and then got a call at the airport that, I guess that's when she finds out that it's her memories, that this actually happened when she was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she got the scar, which is now gone. And that, she's responsible for, rolling the car, and that's what killed her mom, when she had always thought she and her mom drove into a tree.
Yeah, the story that her dad told her about her mom's death was that she and her mom were in the car together, and they got into an accident, and the mom died, and the dad only told her that story so he could protect her from living with the knowledge that she basically killed her mom and paralyzed her best friend. What a day.
Yes. And I'm on the dad's side in that one. There was I think he was right to keep that from her.
But it was all kind of unraveling for me at this point, because if I'm remembering correctly, during her first appointment with Dr. Clark, she specifically tells him that she never knew her mother, as if they'd like never met, or she died like in childbirth or something. And then we find out even the version that she was given by her dad, in that version, she was still like in her car with her mom as a young kid. So clearly she had some kind of relationship with her mother. She just remembers nothing, I guess, for whatever reason. So,
and the doctor just goes along with whatever story the dad told her.
Right.
So the dad was supposed to go on a business trip during the day that the accident happened, but because he got a phone call from probably Springwood Hospital that the mom was in an accident, he didn't get on the plane and instead went to the hospital to find out that his wife died. That turns out to be a pretty big deal the next time Amy has a dream.
Yes, because now Amy is like, I get this, I'm in control, and I'm going to fix everything.
I really enjoyed the father's monologue, too, when he reveals what really happens, because he tells the story and he's, sort of remembering how he was very hesitant to leave his wife and daughter because it was almost inevitable that they would be murdered or killed somehow the second he left. I'm like, what is this world we're living in where if it's not nuclear war, the second
Right.
you turn your back on someone, they're dead? Like, what is happening? And sure enough, that's what happened.
Yeah, so after the third dream, when she stops everything, she stops the car from rolling over the best friend and knocking her mom off the ladder. When she wakes up, the mom is alive, but the dad is dead because it turns out when he left on the plane crashed for whatever reason and everybody died. And I feel like if that really did happen, then the dad would have had coworkers on that plane as well. And wouldn't the plane have still gone down in the other alternate realities that she had changed? So the dad would have known that the plane was going to crash, or that the plane did crash anyway, and have told that part of the story.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, that he would know that, I almost got on this plane and then it ended up crashing and everybody died.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but it's pretty clear that these people are all very self-involved. So it's just like wiping his brow. Glad it wasn't me. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm the president. But...
And I guess when he's like telling Amy about what really happened, I guess it's not really that relevant. Like, you killed your mom, and but the good news is that I would have died if you hadn't killed your mom.
Or if the dad got on the plane anyway, then she would have been an orphan because both parents died that day for separate reasons.
So it's kind of like time travel rules here. Like, you don't want to mess with it, right? Because as soon as you like pull the thread of something, you never know what the domino effect is going to be. Mm-hmm. So you save your mom, your dad dies.
Yeah,
I guess.
And then we're back to Dr. Clark, who George Lazenby, who's decides to. Well, I guess before this, she, we get to the second half of the episode, and now she's dreaming about this military base, and there's a control room, and somebody's entering launch codes. So now that's what she's dreaming about instead of this accident in the driveway.
Yeah, because apparently she had fixed everything that was wrong in her life, except now is her dad still dead? Or did she go back and try to fix that?
I guess so. I mean, does she not... Now that she saved her mom and her dad's dead, she just doesn't have that dream anymore, I guess?
Apparently not. But maybe because, she still has memories of her dad in the alternate universe, that now she can just focus on making memories with her mom, since she has, enough memories with her dad. I'm not sure.
I think you're right. I think she wants to have her cake and eat it, too. Now that she's figured this out, she's like, I can go back whenever I want and just change it again, and I'm kind of sick of my boozy dad, so let's hang out with mom for a while.
Yeah, so now she's dreaming about nuclear launch codes, and the CIA comes to visit her, and when they visit her, they are offered milk and cookies from the mom, and they actually accept them and eat them, and maybe that's also part of the Christmas episode, like they're Santa Claus.
Yeah, they were referred by the doctor. Apparently he's got a CIA agent friend, and he calls them up to come check her out.
Yeah, he has a direct line to the CIA. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
And have we seen Freddy yet at this point? When's the first interlude where he kind of pops up?
So I think after when the mom comes in and says, I'm here, but your dad's dead. She shows the daughter a picture of the dad, and the frame is Freddy stripes.
Yes, that's right.
And then Freddy deflates a ball because the girls were playing with the ball in the driveway.
And the ball is also green and red.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, they're playing with the green and red, kind of like basketball.
But yeah, it's not a Freddy heavy episode.
No, not at all.
But it seems like they're somehow implying that Freddy is pulling the strings to some degree. Is that the case in every episode of this show? Is that the conceit at all? Freddy is somehow causing this to happen? Because he pops up after we see her write down the launch codes, and there's the impending threat of nuclear war, and Freddy says, "Today Springwood, tomorrow the world," as if he's somehow causing nuclear war to break out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what's supposed to be happening, to where Freddy is just manipulating all of Springwood. It's not very clear in a lot of episodes how Freddy is a part of all of this.
So Amy becomes this big concern for the military. And they're worried that since she can see these nuclear launch codes, she is a security breach. So we see these like CIA guys having meetings about her. And I looked up, one of them is also a Bond actor. He played a general in a bunch of Bond movies. So
interesting.
Yeah, so I assume like the director was a big Bond fan and was like, let me let me get all these actors for this.
Yeah. I think it was right around this part of the episode where I kind of checked out because it was so uninteresting and I didn't understand what any of this had to do with her dad no longer being alive. I was just like, I don't understand why all these people are here. Why do we care about a nuclear bomb? I just want to see Freddy. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure Amy herself is unclear on what the connection is because, like any good nightmare heroine, it seems that she immediately throws herself into research, and we just see her reading a book called The Bomb.
Yes.
She's like, I don't know. I guess I better figure this out. Where should I start?
Mm-hmm.
The bomb. Yeah, why not?
Yes. And she's dreaming about this guy named Frank who works in the military facility. I guess he's suffering from nightmares, or it's implied that he's being affected by nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
And goes home and he's got his wife and his little kid, and they're watching Gumby on TV.
I did like this part of the episode when she like starts to play Scrabble with them, and then like the family is slowly burning and being all charred because apparently the nuclear bomb is about to go off or has gone off or it's coming towards them.
Mm-hmm. And the little kid's like, save me, or maybe that's earlier. But his teeth fall out and everything's falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think when the screenwriter sat down to bang out this episode, he knew this is where it was going? Because I almost feel like he wrapped up the first half and like figured out how she would save the mom and change time, and then he was only like 20 pages in.
Yeah.
And had to figure out like where he was like, well, okay, crap. These
Mm-hmm.
stakes were definitely not high enough. So where can I go from here? Nuclear war? Question mark?
Right.
That's kind of how it feels, because it's also very unclear to me at this point what the rules are and what Amy's powers are. Because now it seems to have pretty much nothing to do with dreaming, and she's almost capable of some kind of like remote viewing.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like psychically spying on people. I just don't.
It took a left turn, and I was not on board with that at all, with the direction of this episode.
And like, can people see her? Can she interact with people? Because in the first part, she gets to pull the girls out of the car and stop things. But here it's not clear. Yeah.
She does end up playing Scrabble with the family, and they do kind of acknowledge her when she's in the living room. So I think that maybe she is able to interact with them as well.
And Frank, the guy at the switch, is in some kind of almost like hypnotic fugue state, I guess. Like it seems like he's being controlled by something, and when he's in that condition, that's kind of when she can mind link with him or so. I don't know. I'm giving this way too much credit, maybe, but trying to figure out how does this work exactly.
Did they ever go into the reason why Frank wants to launch the nuclear bombs?
I guess we're jumping ahead, but when the situation is resolved, she says it was the nightmare's fault.
Yes.
Okay. So he was just, well, so maybe in a sense he was being controlled by Freddy, and, Freddy wants the nuclear bomb to go off, but I don't think that would really serve Freddy's purpose, because if he doesn't have anyone to torture, because everyone's dead, then he can't really exist anymore. So it's kind of like suicide.
Right, and he likes to torture people and like thrives on the fear. So if it's just this boom, everybody's dead, that doesn't serve him.
Yeah.
At all. Freddy's just like becoming the Joker at this point. Chaos reigns, I guess. Like whatever hellfire I can rain down upon you, sure.
In order for the missiles to launch, 2 people have to turn a key simultaneously, and it's like across the room, so it takes 2 people to do it. So Frank has a gun to his coworker's head, forcing him to launch the missile. But if I was his coworker, I would just say, well, shoot me, because either way, I'm dead, and I'm not going to help you kill millions of people when I'm going to be one of those millions of people anyway. So maybe that's just like the martyr in me, but I don't think I would just take a shot to the head.
And also we find out he's pointing the missile towards, when the CIA people are meeting, and they say he's pointing the missile towards us. So they say he's in Nevada and he's going to shoot the missile at Langley, Virginia.
Okay.
So I don't understand how so in the dream sequence, his family gets blown up, but he's not pointing the missile towards where his family is. They would be fine.
Well, what's the range of nuclear disaster? Isn't it a couple thousand miles that it can reach?
I don't think so. That would be...
You don't?
Like the whole country. Because I was also confused because it sounds like they're worried that whatever Frank does is going to start a war. But if he's shooting the missile within the
United States,
it's not going to trigger an enemy response.
No, not at all. It would make more sense if like we were having visitors from another country and they were in Virginia. So like, and if they died in the nuclear blast, then yeah, that would like cause a war. But yeah, you're right. If it's on U.S. soil against U.S. attacking, then yeah, it would just be like our own home problem.
And really, we've done the other world powers a favor by blowing ourselves up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't think there's like any retaliation that's going to happen. Well, thankfully, in the world of this episode, we can all breathe a collective sigh of relief because Amy saves the day. But
she kind of turns into like this precog guinea pig for the CIA, to where they use her to like channel other people's premonition nightmares to see what evil doing they're up to.
Right. So she's not going home anytime soon.
No, she's definitely a prisoner of the CIA with her special powers.
I liked that. I thought that was a cool twist. Like,
yeah,
this is your life now.
Yeah, the ending I liked because they could take it into like sequel episodes if they really needed to. But the whole middle piece of the second half, I was like, Lord, what is going on?
The sequel episode could be called C.I. Amy.
This thing writes itself.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Are we sure that there isn't a sequel?
I don't know.
Have you guys looked down the line?
No, I think maybe we need to, because there was a sequel episode from the pilot, and then it turned into the 7th episode, so it's quite possible.
It would be pretty great if, after years of, testing and psychological torture, she turned on her captors and started using her dream powers against them.
Oh, that would be great. Okay, so Dave, overall, how did you feel about this episode?
I really enjoyed the first half, but not in the way it was meant to be enjoyed, and then it lost me a bit in the second half.
David, how did you feel about it?
This show is very charming. It's kind of like a warm hug. It fills me with nostalgia, and I actually had an easier time getting through it than some of the other episodes that I've tried to watch. Maybe because I knew we were going to be talking about it, and I was excited because I wasn't just going to be sitting there like Jill by myself in the dark, like crying watching this episode. But yeah, I had fun with it.
Okay, good. I'm on the same page as you, Dave. I liked the first half, and then that second part of it was excruciating to get through, and I really had to force myself. But the very end of it I liked, because it was a cool twist of what could have happened with the episode. And
we did get to see Gumby melt down during the nuclear war. That was a fun cameo.
And he even screams out to Pokey for help, right?
Yeah.
It was actually kind of heartbreaking.
Okay, Dave, do you have anything for next week's episode?
Thank you so much for joining us. Please tune in again next week when we talk about Season 1, Episode 13, Deadline, where we learn all about creative obituary writing.